Let's look at this question and see how to solve it. $50 is 80% of what total amount? I made the $50 and 80 is 80% in red to make that stand out. We know $50 is 80%. I also wrote that in my work to the right at the top. $50 is 80%. When I build my line diagram with my line 0 to 100%, I mark off 80%, which is 4/5 or 8/10 of the line, a good chunk of, a good portion of this line diagram, and I mark 80%. And then across the top, that arc across from it, $50. So I know the multiplier, I know the value that that multiplier, that percent is representing, but it says in blue, I made the rest of it, of what total amount. So the total is missing. On my line diagram, I put a box with some question marks there above the 100%. I don't know the total. So that is the goal, to figure out what the total is. $50 is 80% of what amount? I'm going to write that as a statement and as an equation. It is a statement here, but we have been starting with the percent at the beginning, so I'm going to put it in that kind of form. 80% of what is $50? 80%, I'm going to change to my multiplier equivalent, 0.8 or 0.80 of what? Of what, right? I don't know what it is yet. That 100%, that total amount, I don't know. So I'm going to put an X to represent that. We're using our algebra skills here. And then is $50. So here's the 50 that we know from the story. 80% is 50, but it's 80% of what amount that we're looking for. So my equation, 0.8 or 0.80 times X equals $50. Finally, I'm going to solve the equation to find X. So here's where we use more of our equation solving skills. Whatever the number of X's were when we solved equations, that's what we always divided by. If it was 3x equals something, we divided by 3. If it was 2x equals something, we divided by 2. If it was 10x equals something, we divided by 10. The goal is to divide by how many x's there are, because that's what you're sharing the value that it's equal to by. You're sharing it that many ways. It also creates this giant 1. No matter what, so even when we have 0.80x, not even a whole x, we still divide by that value. How many x's? When we divide by that, there's our giant 1. 0.80 over 0.80 will give us 1x, and that's what we want. On the other side, because when we solve an equation, we have to do the same thing on both sides. We're going to divide $50 by 0.80 as well. So remember, I used my line fraction bar, to represent division. And on both sides, I'm showing that. So then when I divide 50 by 0.80, that gives me the value of X, $62.50. So X up here, I did not put an X in my diagram, but the box here is representing X, what I don't know. That is $62.50. And that, when we read our statement, we would say 80% of $62.50 is $50. $50 is a lot of the $62.50, just like 80% is a lot of the 100. It makes sense when we read that statement, and then mathematically using our multiplier, when we multiply by this 62.50, we should get the $50. So we just were working backwards with our multiplier when we wrote our equation in the end to divide by our multiplier to get back to what that value is for the total, $62.50.